Hi, I'm Andy Acton.
And I'm Chris Strevens.
This is Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. My goodness, Maggie has some energy, doesn't she?
She did. Amazing. I tell you what, it's going to, she just talked about lots of things. I mean, flip. So what is it? How do you get all that crammed into a current lifestyle?
I also wonder, when you meet people who do so many different things, I think it's the variety of the different things they do that kind of give them so much energy and so much colour across all the things they do, because her career is quite varied, isn't it? I mean, dentist, dental practice owner,
naked
football
dancer
player, football coach, now developing a child minding app. And I think that the crossover, the transferable skills and experience she keeps building by doing more and different things, I'm sure there'll be a correlation between that and doing more different things.
I think one of the it's quite interesting, a transferable skill is getting on with it.
Yes.
You know, it's almost a can do rather than a can don't.
Yeah.
I'm just going to step out and have a go.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great one. I think also the other thing that people listening, that thing about doing stuff, as in seeing lots of patients to help you build your skills. She finds that quite critical for it. Yeah. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, really valuable. Yeah, which probably isn't a very popular thought in terms of the way that some of the younger dentists perhaps are approaching dentistry at the moment.
I thought she was really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it was. Really, really great.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to go for a lie down. This is by far the best part of what we do, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's good just having a chat and finding out about people. Because people are interesting, aren't they? People are so interesting.
And the funny thing is, everybody says, oh, you're so generous doing a podcast, like sharing this. I think it's selfish. I think we get to spend 45 minutes an hour with these really interesting people, and we get insights on dentistry.
And it's cheaper than taking them for a coffee or a pint.
Exactly.
So there's a financial benefit too as well.
Well, let's introduce our guest for today. So today we have Dr. Maggie Andi joining us. Maggie is a holistic dentist, principal of Mill Hill Dental Practice, founder of the Kids Go Free movement, mother of 3, and a true dentrepreneur. Welcome, Maggie. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm fine. Lovely to see you, Andy and Chris. Thanks for having me on.
No, not at all. We're looking forward to it.
I tell you, got loads to cram in.
There's a lot to cover. And something that when we were doing our kind of preparation and research, kids is obviously a big part. You have your own 3 children, you've got your Kids Go Free movement. Before we get to those kids, can we talk about the kid in Maggie?
Oh, what was nice segue. I like that.
Beautifully done, wasn't it?
Like that. I'm still a big kid.
So what was your childhood like? Where were you brought up? Got siblings, family? What did that look like?
Yeah, my childhood was awesome. I mean, some people might describe it as a little bit nomadic. I went to 9 primary schools. I've got three siblings. I've got my sister and my 2 brothers. And yeah, my mom was when she had me, she was still a medical student. And coming into the UK, I think we came in when I must have been about 6 months old, almost a year.
Wow.
And I was officially a Geordie. So I literally I was all sort of yay and nay, lived in Chesmond and South Shields and Gosforth.
Wow.
So I was a proper Geordie for about 5 years. Then because
you've lost the accent well.
I've lost the accent. Well, nobody knows what accent I have actually. But then I remember from Newcastle, we then moved down to Bournemouth and then to London and then out to Nigeria and then back to London. So I have no idea what accent I have. Apparently my kids say when I'm really drunk, I sound a little bit American, which might be some of the schooling I had in Nigeria. And then they say when I'm angry, I sound a bit French. And I just spend an awful lot of time in Paris with my cousins. So I don't know. I just talk, and whatever comes out comes out.
Isn't it funny that when you're a little bit angry, you get French?
Yeah. But then one thing I've noticed, and interesting enough, my nurse I think notices this. I have this gift of chameleoning. Chameleoning is when you can do any accent to suit any person. It happens a lot in the corporate world.
Yes.
So when it comes to business deals, I sound like whoever you like in the world of football. So it works, having the ability to pick up accents and use them.
Brilliant. So repressed actress and now actor or whatever.
No, rubbish acting, rubbish.
Oh, there we go. Good accents.
So you qualify as a dentist very young, at 22, young. And you credit Dr. Nari Mansukhani as being your mentor. What was it that Dr. Nari said that inspired you to want to pursue dentistry?
He said, "You're a great model, you're a crap actress, you need a proper job." So, because
Really, really inspiring.
At the time when I was doing work experience in Nari, I was a bit lost. I must have been about 15 and a half, coming up 16, and I was doing athletics 3 times a week. I was doing football 4 times a week, and I was doing modeling, and on top of that, I was thinking, okay, I really want to, my mom was like, well, why don't you look at medicine? Because of course she's a doctor, and that's what all doctors do. They ask one of their kids to try and be a doctor. And then my mum took me to do work experience at the hospital she was working at. Somebody's rectum fell out in front of me.
Oh, no, nice.
Yeah, and 2 people died. And I cried for days and days, and I was traumatized, and that was it. My mum's like, okay, you're not going to be a doctor. She parked the fact that I was dyslexic. That was actually the reason I wouldn't have been a doctor. But anyway, and then I just thought, well, let me look at something else. And so I thought, well, I like the idea of patients. I like the idea of talking. I talk a lot, as you probably guessed. And I thought, if I can be paid to just speak and treat people. And then one of my friends was like, well, look at dentistry, because they just get paid for chatting all day. That's what she told me, because we don't have any dentists in our family, so I had no idea. And obviously I wasn't taken to the dentist much as a kid. And so, that's how I stumbled upon Nari, because I got on my bike and I thought, right, the first dental practice I go past, I'm going in. I'm just going to chat to the dentist and see if he'll have me. And it was Nari. So he took one look at this skinny little rascal on a bike with a football in the other arm and said, what do you want? And I said, well, I'd like to work for you, please. And next thing I know, I'm on 20 quid an hour. He's treating like Jordanian royal family. This is in Barnet. Wow. And he's telling me all these wonderful things about how I'm going to go to dental school. And that was that. So I realized I couldn't get the grades for dental school because you needed A's or whatever. I don't know what A's are. I don't get A's. I knew that with my football, I had a real gift there. And I knew that if I could just get into dental school, I'd do fine. Because once I'm in something and I am using it and I know it, my brain gets it. Yep. It's just all the theory coming up to that part. So that was it. Yeah. So dentistry, they let me in with, I think I got BBC in the end. And I still managed to finish in the top 10 in my year. I still managed to have a great dental career, and here I am. So if I can make it, anybody can.
Wow!
With those things, I always think of the sliding doors moment. That what if Dr. Nari hadn't been there, or you'd have gone another way, or whatever, and you'd have stopped at another practice, and it hadn't been as inspiring. You could have gone off and done something completely different. But that moment really had an impact on your future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, I think now I get my personality. I can see my personality because I see a couple of my kids are like me. I think I would have probably got there in the end anyway. Right. It just might have been one of those really long stories where I might have had to do another degree first and maybe go to America and get lost in the Outer Hebrides. I don't know. There'd have been some way around it, but I don't think it would have been as smooth as it was. So that's why I was able to qualify at 22, because I literally didn't do a gap year. I went straight into uni. And I qualified literally a few days before my 23rd birthday. So,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you qualified in 2003.
2003,
2003, and you now own Mill Hill Dental Practice, which I understand is 110 years old as a practice.
Legendary
which is
Mill Hill.
Incredible.
Which is nuts. Yeah, I think we are the third oldest practice in London.
Which is amazing.
I hope you've changed equipment.
Yeah. We sure have.
So what was your pathway from graduating to buying Mill Hill? What did you do in that period?
So graduate in 2003, I was under Chris Room in Ipswich.
Okay.
I actually, do you know what? I applied for about 26 practices in London because I didn't realise that with VT, it's who you know, not what you know. Yeah. And because I didn't have any dentists in the family, I wasn't very well led in that department. So I just remember the tutors were like, just apply for all the ones. So of course, then someone said to me, don't apply in London. All of London's taken. Apply outside London as far as you could. So I was like, how far would I feel comfortable applying? So I went onto the Ipswich scheme, and boy, am I glad I did. It was an amazing, amazing experience. So Chris had a practice in Heybridge. So I did a year with him. And I think at the time I was with my husband and we just bought, or we were engaged, in Essex. So I knew I wasn't going to stay up there with him. So that's how it comes. So when I finished BT, I got a job with Maggie Drew in Cheshunt, which was nuts because you've gone from, a really tiny practice in Heybridge, not having to see that many people, to suddenly having like a 6-month waiting list in Cheshunt in Hertfordshire. And sadly, a dentist nearby had passed away, and I'd inherited like 4,000 of his patients because they shut the practice.
Wow.
It was nuts. But I'm so happy because learning that way, just being thrown into it,
definitely.
I think any other scenario wouldn't have suited me. I was one of these that needed to really learn on the job, really enjoy my dentistry, and really see what dentistry really was, because all I had was Nari. And Nari was to the 3, 4, 5 really rich Saudi patients a day.
Very different.
Very different to
world.
sort of, 30, 33 patients a day. So I worked there. Then I did a brief spell with, I don't know if you know Erica Schumann. A brief spell with Erica in Much Haddam.
Yeah.
And she was the first time I ever got fired. In fact, the only time I've ever been fired. But then I met her recently because she's on the Women Dentists Network.
Yes.
She explained that she didn't actually fire me. She relieved me. There's a difference.
Oh, okay. Right. That's an interesting.
Yeah, because I thought she let me go because I was crap. And she was just like, no, you were just really tired. And she was right, because I'd had my second child and I wasn't sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why. Then from her, I went to David Vazai, who was lovely. He's in Harlow in Essex. And I just made a point of saying I never wanted to do full-on private practice until I owned my own practice, because I wanted to be done a certain which way. So I wanted to just use all of my experiences as an associate to learn. And I guess maybe me and Uche and a few others might have been that original concept of what you call the super associate. We just have our own kind of websites and our own PAs and our own marketing and the early days of funnels. So from Dawood, I went to Saf Gori in Shepherd's Bush, and I was with him till I took over from Alan in Mill Hill. So I've only ever worked in sort of 5 practices, but they've all been awesome, and they've all shaped what I do.
I think there's a great lesson in there, isn't there, for people who are listening? This whole thing about almost being thrown in at the deep end, and sort of you have to just sink or swim. But I think like you, in the fact of you did all that work, but what it did with seeing all those patients per day, it actually fine tunes you, doesn't it? It sort
100%.
of enables you to do stuff. Whereas I find it a little bit frustrating when people say, "Oh no, I don't want to." I don't know, for my mental health, I don't really want to do some of that stuff. And I just think, well, hang on a minute, it's that bit like muscle memory, and you learn so much. You learn so much.
I mean, Sarek, I started using Sarek, 15 years ago. And I remember Dawood had one of the original versions. I think he had version 1 or 2 where you had to use a spray. Remember you had to use a recognition spray. And we do like 10, 15 of those a day. You can't get that. No course, no, 10 grand a year course is going to get you that kind of hands-on experience. I'm sorry, you have to do it. And you have to understand restorative to understand preventative. So now when everyone says, oh, you're a holistic dentist, you're prevention, I'm like, because I took a whole journey of understanding what it is that happens when things break down and what you have to do to stop things breaking down, So I've gone from practices where I do 10 endos a week to my practice where I might only have to do 1 or 2 a whole month. Because patients know what to do to not need one, right? And if they do need one, I have my wonderful specialist Adrian that comes in and does them. So, you have to do that journey, right? And but we run a big NHS-based contract, and we're open every night of the year now. And in that, we pick up lots of patients who need root canal treatment. So my younger dentists can now learn. So it's like you have to teach people to go through that. Very important.
Maggie, when you were recruiting associates, do you find sometimes that they're not interested in doing the NHS bit? I don't want to do that. I only want to do private. Or do you manage to inspire them to say, actually, you really do need to do this just to learn?
So I have 2 different concepts in the practice. My daytime practice, my associates don't do NHS. And it's because I won't let them work for those fees. I don't think it's fair. So rather than usually, I do the NHS. The only other person in the practice who does the NHS is my niece, Zoe, who qualified overseas, and she's brilliant. And she works at a really great practice near her house in Kent. And she comes and does a really busy Friday with me. And I've done that to her on purpose because I want her to understand how to treat everybody. I want her to treat real humans, because sometimes when these associates qualify and they've only been in the profession 1 or 2 years, and suddenly all they want to do is align, bleach, and bond, I'm like, you must be flipping bored. You must be bored out of your mind, because it's like, it's so boring. I mean, it's, yes, okay, you get the finish, but come on now, what is it you want to do? And so but they can't know what they want to do if they haven't been exposed to all of dentistry, right? So when we're actively hiring, we hire an extension of me. So as I'm sitting here now, I have someone in the practice who's basically me, but a male version of me today. But so we have the team who come in and they do the implants, they do all the other bits and bobs. But I think it's really important for principals to do the work and show their associates that they can do the work.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then we do a nighttime NHS contract as well. So that's all NHS, which runs through 111, which is really good. And that really helps a lot of dentists really find their feet and understand about emergencies and, you know, treating people with compassion. I think it's important.
And a really valuable service as well.
I think the thing with the NHS, isn't it, what it does give you is it gives you lots of treatments, but also lots of different types of people.
Absolutely.
You fine-tune your communication skills for sure, don't you?
Yeah,
so now you own Mill Hill. Let's run alongside that. Where's the family at this stage? You've got 3 children by now, or just 2?
My kids, no. My kids are now 17, 15, and 11.
Right.
So when I was with Saf, I went down to like a day and a half. And I did that because I looked after my brother at the time. My brother has significant mental health, my younger brother. And I just didn't want anybody else to look after him because they wouldn't know how to do it. So Saf was brilliant. And he literally put me on a day and a half week, which was great. And we just moved into London and I'd had Alex. So Alex must have only been about 1 at the time, or 1.5. So I think I waited on purpose to start my practice until my youngest was in about year 3, year 4. I don't think I could have done it if the kids were any younger. Honestly. Now that's just me. I see lots of amazing women doing it with really tiny kids, but they have these wonderful things called nannies. And I'm that kind of mother. I'm that chick. I don't mind childminders. I love childminders to death, but I can't have, you know, with my naked dancing too, I can't have like a stranger living in the house with me, you know. It's like it's awkward, right? They would not appreciate
the naked dancing there for those of you.
Sure,
explain Maggie, for naked dancing.
So naked dancing is it's not my concept. Please don't think it is, but it's something that I just decided to push out there because I'd always done it from growing up, and I've just always done it. And I can't remember which aunt it was mine that introduced it to me, but anyway, it's fascinating. And the thing is, it helps a lot with sort of anxiety, and it helps you to channel your thoughts. Well, some people go to the gym and pump weights at like 6 a.m. So it's kind of like whatever it is you need to do to get yourself going, right? So for me, I just think it's a really great thing because it's really a beautiful thing to be naked, in my opinion, because not many people get the chance to be naked. Some people sleep in these awful things called pajamas, and so they wake up and they're fully clothed, and then they have a shower, they're hot, they put on a really thick towel, and they put on clothes, and it's like you never get the chance to just be free, you know. And in your own house, that's the only place you can really be free, right? You're not going to go naked dance in the street because you get arrested. But yeah, it's a great thing to do. And actually, I won't call them out because I never tell you who my patients are, but I have some very, very well-known people in this country who are on TV daily who dance naked in the morning.
Excellent.
You know? And you know, they one of them in particular swears by it. Literally, he'll do it before like making major decisions in his huge company. So it really is a really great thing to do. It just washes all the.
You have to get the planning right,
away.
so as when your kids bring their friends home. Oh, sorry, Mum.
Yeah, but it doesn't take a minute. You know,
anyone want a cup of tea?
Thing. I know. I have some people who literally double up it. You know those mini trampolines?
Yeah.
You know, the little indoor cute little mini trampolines. They'll do it like, you know, on one of those first thing in the morning. Some people do it to like music. It's fantastic. You know,
I suppose get your endorphins going.
Try it and text me. See what you think.
Fabulous. Just to take a detour away from you for a second. We've done this podcast for a few years, and one of our regrets is we never got to have Dr. Uchenna Okoye come on and join us. You were good friends with Uchenna, weren't you? Could you tell us a bit about her?
So Uche she was basically a mentor of mine. It was really weird. We kind of went full circle actually. So it started with her mentoring me because she's 10 years older. And then in the end, it kind of flipped a little bit, and I did a little bit with her and then back again. But Uche was what you'd probably call a modern day power. You know, she was just power. She was, you know, some people use the word powerhouse. Yeah. No, the house was she'd break the house down. So she was one of these people where she would just get it done. You know, the kind of person who'll say, oh, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this course. Yeah. She's already registered and done it. Right? She's one of these. And she wouldn't just go and do the course. She'd literally be one of these that as soon as she's done the course, she'd put it straight into action. Right, you know, she was just a real kind of go-getter. She was really forward-thinking. She would always, she was one of the first people that really, truly made me understand that whole concept of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Right. You know, like pushing yourself beyond your boundaries. Like, you know, she had Mars, who was her PA, and then she'd do all the media stuff early, then she'd do the TV stuff. Anything she had an idea, she wouldn't dilly-dally. She'd just do it. Yeah, she'd just get on with it. And so I use a lot of the energy I got from her to do the things I do. Right? Because there's certain things that I look at and think, I'm no chance. I'm not like my UEFA C. When I went and did my UEFA C, and the cohort coach was like, you're going to be the only woman. There's like 42 of us, right? I was like, yeah, okay. But whereas without you chase energy, I would have run from that. You know what I mean? So it's just that kind of, sometimes you're like, some people are like, what would Uche do? What would Jesus do? What would, you kind of work it out in your head.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wish she'd seen the last 2 years, like the stuff I've done. I'm sure she's up there looking down.
But what a great legacy, though. What a great legacy that she's still influencing you and
so
many other people.
So many other people. So many other people will tell you the exact same thing. And I think anybody that was lucky enough to meet her was very, very lucky and blessed.
I met her a few times. I met her at a Gooch Street practice many years ago, and she's memorable. If you spend time with her,
very memorable.
Yeah.
If you spend time with
her, like the presence, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you spend time with her, you remember the encounter.
For sure.
So back to you and your practice. So in 2024, you won the Best Practice for Digital Innovation and Clinical Excellence. Has digital dentistry always been key to you and your practice when you became a principal? And how does that work alongside holistic dentistry? What's kind of the integration between those?
So the term holistic is, in the UK, I find it's interesting because it's almost just woken up all of a sudden. Like, I mean, I drove past the bus stop the other day and they were like, this is a holistic stop. I was like, what? So everything's holistic, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if you're going to try and define holistic into digital, I think the only holistic aspects of digital would be things like maybe the speed at which you're able to treat the patient, so they're in the chair less time, and the materials we're able to introduce. Because obviously through the digital stuff we do, we can now use like much better materials and the nutritional aspects of it in terms of going through that way with the apps we use now to track their nutrition. All of that stuff, I guess, is where holistics would come in. But in terms of digital dentistry, the term digital is actually just what dentists have been doing for many years. They just haven't realized it. All it is that there's been a shift in the concept. And all of a sudden, now that AI has come in and embodied it a little bit, people are now almost macro managing AI into digital and making you think you're only a digital dentist if you're using these AI integrated tools. But digital has been, I mean, I would classify CEREC 1, from 2010 as digital, And so it just depends on where you come into it. But for me in holistics is more because I like to treat the whole patient.
Yeah.
So, we do things like the holistic treatment plans. We talk about their sleep, what they're eating, sometimes relationships. We look at their, physical makeup now. We've got biofacial coming into the practice soon as well. So, we're trying to take them as a whole person in effect. Then in terms of the restorative phase, that's something that now I'm finding we're getting less of because the holistic integrations are now working. Patients are understanding that if you watch what you eat, if you take your vitamin D, if you take precautions like wear mouth guards when you box or things like that, they're now able to prevent these catastrophic restorative scenarios from occurring, which is where we've now seen the shift into, if you like, holistic appliances like, the likes of Invisalign and these other companies, So it's kind of a fine balance. It'll probably tip again. But at the moment, we're super, always have been really, but now we're seeing more in terms of the prevention side, more uptake of the members clubs now. It used to be like members clubs had died a death, and now in dentistry, I guess because of the cost of care, they're coming back again. A lot of patients like to pay for their, hygiene monthly rather than pay as they go. So I think there's a lot of change, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to see that more dentists are now incorporating it as well.
I was going to say, it does seem very much it's moving more into the mainstream.
Change of attitudes, isn't it?
I just see more and more people talking about it. There's certain practices that have opened quite recently that are focusing on that. And for you, I guess there's something nice, something you've been doing for so long is finally breaking through to the mainstream, because doing something as an outlier is always hard.
It's always hard,
but it does feel like everyone's just catching you up.
Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting though, because I find, for instance, we don't need to apply for awards; we just win them. Isn't that strange? And sometimes you don't want them because you haven't applied for them. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So it's but one thing I love about that, and I say to all the young dentists when they are, and even older dentists who are starting their practices now, I say, look, you don't underestimate the impact of other people recognizing what you do. Don't underestimate that. I hear people say really dumb stuff like, oh, there's nothing to be done on Instagram. You can't grow your business on Instagram. I'm like, really? I don't understand that. 80% of my database comes from my Instagram, literally, So I think it depends on how you do it. If you do it in a tacky way
Yeah.
and you just want to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
on these really random looking like cartoon funnels and do it with adverts, it's not going to grow. But if you use things like your Instagram and other channels to actually engage with people and build relationships, and you're in the DMs doing the work in the background like we used to do on Clubhouse,
Yeah.
these relationships lead to a lot of success and a lot of patience. You know, and people need to understand that.
Well, it's how people look for things, isn't it? You know, they look online, LinkedIn,
But, but
Instagram,
the amount
whatever.
of research that goes on behind the scenes and checking and looking at your work and asking for recommendations, that all happens way before they get in touch. So by the time that DM turns up, they're not definitely a patient. They need nurturing, but all that research has already taken place.
100%,
isn't it?
And also, you know, we used to pay a lot back in the days to have people run our practice Instagram, because we've got the practice Instagram and we've got my personal one. And then it's interesting because I have a few patients who own really huge brands, and they will like, look at our Instagram. Nobody's following the business. They want to follow the owner. They want to see you, and they want to understand what it is you do, and they want to know your ethos, and they want to see who is running this organization. Is it sustainable? What are your beliefs? And so I thought, actually, that's a good point. Let me just check something. And when I went on Instagram to check, it's true. My following in the actual dental practice is tinsy. And you know, and it's unusual because we sponsor Barnet Football Club.
Yes.
So you know, every 8 minutes when there's a live match, you see Mill Hill DP, Mill Hill DP, Mill Hill DP.
Yeah.
You'd think thousands of people will be following Mill Hill DP, but no, they all want to come follow me because they think, let's follow the owner of the business.
For sure.
So this is the thing that you have to
and
understand.
People are interested in people, aren't we? You know, if you go to any website, the first thing you do is click on team and look at the faces. You know, are they the sort of people that resonate with you? Are they happy? We are. We just kind of interested in people. So it's not that much of a surprise. But it brings challenges, doesn't it? Because then you're managing a business brand. And then you're managing your own personal account, but the link between values and culture and mission and everything, it's all got to join up. So if they connect with you through Instagram, when they arrive in the practice, it has to feel like an extension of Maggie.
Absolutely.
So
and that's it.
Exactly. It needs to join up, doesn't it? You mentioned about football. You used to play football to semi-pro level. And you saying about your coaching as well. You must be delighted with how the women's game's come on in the past few years then.
But that's why I'm doing my badges.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to, I mean, at the moment I coach my son's team because I just thought, he had a really bad experience when he was about 5 or 6. And I said, listen, I could see back then he had something. And I was like, if mummy coaches you, will you carry on? Because he wanted to quit the game then, right? And so that's why we built the team around him, and then we thought, well, let's go through this. Now he's going into that age of getting into the kind of academy setup. I might not need to coach him for much longer, but I still love my team. I'm coaching this at under 11 boys. But at some point, once these boys have grown up and I'm long forgotten in their lives, I want to go into women's and start coaching the next generation of the girls. So I do still go and do certain events and things in the women's game. And obviously I'm still on a lot of the women's forums, and we're pushing a lot of things forward with the FA, which is amazing. But I think there's definitely, we're seeing 70, 80,000 now in Germany. We just had 86,000 turn up at the Borussia Dortmund game. You know, so it's ridiculous. It's growing really, really fast, and it's a good thing to see.
Oh, for sure.
I think I went to Arsenal versus Tottenham at the Emirates, and I think it was a sellout. You know, for the women's game, you know, they play normally, I think, in Boreham Wood or something. And then
they do,
suddenly they rock up and there's 60,000 people. And I was thinking, for one, it was amazing the different type of audience. But also, I thought, as players, it must be, you know, stunning. You know, what was it, the Euros and the World Cup and the TV that people watched, and everybody enjoyed that football. It's amazing how it's come on.
It's funny because I met my husband in the 4th year of dental school, and that was the year I was meant to flip and go and do the last 2 years in the States on a football scholarship over there. And I met him and I decided to stay here. But I was thinking it must be so hard for these girls these days when they get to year 4, because you're thinking boyfriend or that. If someone said to me, you know, 60 goals a season, age 21, look at that in Chicago. I love my boyfriend, but he'd have to come visit me. I mean, I'm in Chicago, 80,000 people singing your name and you're like wearing shirts with your name in the back of it. Come on. Every girl needs that. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, no, my plan is to, once I've done all the badges, I will definitely do the pro license. I work at the moment with a foundation in Togo, and we're looking to open up some in Uganda. Uganda actually going to be hosting the next African Cup of Nations in 2026. So there's a lot of drive to try and get the game underway.
Maggie, can I just check, how does your clock work? Because mine works on 24 hours in a day. How does yours work? Because the amount you get done, you clearly have to have you clearly have a different clock working on yours.
Different clock for me, for sure.
She doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
So
I sleep. It depends on what day it is. I sleep naked, of course. Yeah, that's important. But it depends on what day of the week.
Right,
say, for instance, last night, just randomly, I went to bed at like 3 because I was just sort of tweaking out some last minute things. On an average day, we tend to go to bed at 2. My husband's entrepreneurial as well, so we hang out. So we go to bed about 2. On average, I wake up about 7:30. So that's still 5.5 hours sleep. And don't forget, it's the quality of sleep. Some people will go to bed at like 9 and they'll wake up at 7 and they're shattered because they've had really crap sleep, right? Yeah. But if you go to bed at, say, 2, you wake up at 6:30, you've had 5.5 hours of great sleep.
I thought you meant in the afternoon.
Yeah.
No.
a little nap, yeah.
But I do get a lie-in, I do try and lie in a bit on the weekends when I can. So it's not, I wouldn't say I'm tired.
Have you always had this ridiculous amount of energy and rush, but not rush in the sense that you're trying to get somewhere, just trying to get a lot done? Have you always been like this?
Well, I don't feel like I rush it to get it done because I take time doing stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for instance...
But rush in the sense that we're only here for a limited amount of time. And there's so many things I want to get done in my life. I don't mean rushing individual tasks.
Well, my grandma used to say, I'll
in a hurry.
Sleep when she said, you'll rest when you're a dead kid. She used to know I was like that, I think what it is where I have so many different ideas all the time. I get this from my dad, right? I need to just get it done. Yeah, so my dad, he's 80 now and he's building a university. So that tells you something about him. You know what I mean? Most 80-year-olds his age, most of his friends actually, unfortunately, dead already. But the ones that are alive are really chilled out. They play golf and they just don't really do much. Yeah. But he's kind of like, I'm building a uni. I'm like, okay, cool. So this is the thing. So I think that's kind of my genes right there. So this is the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Why did you give up football?
I haven't given up football. I still play.
No, you still play?
I play Tuesdays and Fridays. But I've given up 11 aside because the kickoff times clash with my son's. He plays in the Sunday league.
So you still play? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I still play. Yeah, I could never give up football. Some of the women I play with like ex-England, ex-Chelsea. And they're like, some of them are literally late 50s, early 60s, and they still have it. They're unbelievable. You know that thing about how class is permanent?
Yeah.
Like they've either lost a little bit in speed, but the speed of their brain, some of the passes they're pinging and the shots they're taking.
Yeah, Andy and I have tickets for Wembley, and sometimes they gave an experience which basically was, we went along. I didn't go, but my son played football, and there was a guy called Darren Anderton.
Yeah,
who used
Darren
to
Anderton,
Tottenham in England. Yeah,
and I don't know how old he is now, 40 or 50 or something.
No, Darren Anderton, he'd be about 58 now.
Right, and he picked up the ball on the edge of his own penalty area, and then he pinged the ball exactly to where a player was, and it was that classic thing of class is permanent. How to place a ball. It was just unbelievable, really. Brilliant. But that's a real skill, isn't it? It's a real skill.
It's a real skill, and that's why you coach.
Yeah.
If Darren Anderton had become a coach, I mean, Spurs wouldn't be where they are now. No, I'm just saying, Spurs. If you look at Spurs as alumni, I'm because. I mean, I'm saying like United, we've got no excuse because our alumni is awesome and we're terrible. But the point is, Spurs have enough in their alumni to just be like, right, you take this on the first team, and they'd be, so much higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another dimension to your life that we've not got to yet is your Kids Go Free movement, which is something you started back in 2020 with this aspiration that 5,000 dentists globally would free up appointments that were free for kids to go to. Talk us through that. How did that come about?
So
how's it
do you
going?
know what? We need to actually be able to put a number on it now. And so what I'm doing is I'm just in the process of developing a landing page where I'm going to get all of the practices who are engaging with it to sign up so that the public can now see the practices taking part, because there are so many practices. I don't even know how many now. But it's going really well. I actually only officially launched it this time last year in terms of letting the practices know, let's just get it done now. It was always an idea and a concept before that, where we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. And then what I was doing predominantly is leading up to it launching officially with a private dentist, I was just getting the NHS dentist to commit to just treating the children anyway once they'd run out of UDAs. I said, let's just do that, whether you get paid for it or not. So my practice did that for a few years anyway. But now, in terms of launch, it's more getting the private practitioners to agree to give up a few slots just to treat kids for free. So there's quite a few who are doing it, which is amazing. They just take it as a charity, don't they? They just, one kid a month, 2 kids a month, it all makes a massive difference, right? So,
do you know?
But once we've got the website up, that'd be great.
Yeah. Do you know Nikki Rowland?
I was going to say the Magic Dentist.
I know of Nikki.
So Nikki started something called the Magic Dentist, and we support her. And that's effectively going to schools and, sharing all health education tips with schools. And they train teachers in schools to help kids. And the stats that she quotes about how many children don't have a toothbrush, it's unbelievable. Terrible.
Absolutely.
And they were saying that the primary reason why kids under 5 are taken into hospital is to have extractions.
Sure.
It's just absolutely mad that we're in the state we are.
It is. Sometimes you have to just. This is what I said about when I was talking about Uche earlier, and how she said you've got to step out of your comfort zone, right? So just around the baseline of the pandemic, when everyone was going back into work, I infiltrated into what you call the pediatric MCN. I say infiltrated because I'm not a specialist. I've got no right to be there. No right to be there. But luckily, Prableen, who's awesome and who's one of the most talented consultant pediatricians in the country, and she just so happens to share the same birthday as me. So we instantly had a connection when she came into a talk to my local dental committee. And I've sailed on over to her and I've gone, Prableen, you could do the GDP on your, you could, everyone needs a GDP on the panel. So she took me on. And that was the best thing we could ever have done, because it opened up our eyes to exactly what was going on. And we were able to, through her, set up a child dental friendly program, which is a pilot program with Whittington Hospital. And through that, then you see the reality. And you also see how they perceive certain areas, because Mill Hill is perceived as being really affluent. But it's not. I always say to people, when you say London is affluent, look in between the houses. When you look in between the houses, you see the real London. It's like in Brazil. When you look in between the houses, you see the real Brazil. You see the favelas. So it's the same thing in London. I'm like, if you go down Mill Hill and actually walk down and look properly in between the houses, you will see that there is actually in some parts of Mill Hill more council housing than private housing now. Right? And these children and adults need to go somewhere. So we treated almost, I think it was close to 6,000 on that particular list. And now we still work alongside the hospital with some of them. But it gets worse, because when you took it as London-wide, it was over 100,000 children at the time who were displaced.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So when we're running the 111 service now, and we're doing it every night of the year, it's not because we're like, oh, yes, let's stay open every night of the year. It's because actually it's needed, and kids are still being brought from all over to have treatment in the middle of the night, which is heartbreaking. Because ideally they should be treated in practice in the daytime if you're a child. Oh,
it's a fabulous initiative. And it's really heartwarming to hear that the UK dental profession have got behind it as well.
Big social conscience going on there.
Yeah. Well, I'd say UK a bit slow. Got more dentists in the States and say Canada, Europe, Greece, France, Italy. So it's gone global.
Oh, really? So it's other countries that are leading the way. And
come on, UK dentists.
Come on, UK. Well, that's why I want to have it up on the site now. What I'm going to do is we're going to get the landing page site up. It's just I've got this the childminding app coming out first. So once that's done, but once it's up on the site, it'd be really interesting to see the actual pie chart, just to embarrass the UK.
I was going to say, everybody loves a league table, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be great to see what the percentage take up has actually been in the UK. Actually, it'd be really interesting to see that when we see everybody signed on.
You're seriously entrepreneurial. Lots of people kind of they have a major string to their bow and they might have another, but you just seem to have all these strands to what you're doing. What's your secret sauce to being entrepreneurial? What is it that gives you that drive?
Labour, government. You know what I mean? I think where we live, there are no state schools, basically. So if they are, but you've got to pay a fortune to live right by them. So if you're unfortunate enough to have to think about how many kids you have to educate. And now you don't just educate them for primary, you have to pay for secondary and then university. And then you've got aging parents, then you've got brother with issues. You have to, what lights your entrepreneurial spirit is usually how many people can you look after, not just in your nuclear family, but beyond that. So I always think if I want to give something, how can I make money to make sure I can give? Like Barnet Football Club. Barnet was the root of my football basin, basically. My brothers played there, and then I did the camps when I was little, and that's where my football joy really grew. And I always said if I ever finished dental school, I would love to support Barnet one day in terms of, being able to give the club money to help the next generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do things like that, you need to make the money somehow, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, so that's why. But I don't know. I mean, I think with entrepreneurism, it's more a case of you want to see change and you want to see impact and you want to see a problem and how can you define it and solve it. So this is the same thing as Bomp. Bomp was born because, which is a child minding
That's
app.
a child minding app.
Yeah, that was born just because, we had a house out in Essex when we were really young, doctors and dentists, and myself and my husband. And, we had the kids in nursery. The house was empty. We were like, come on, there's no childminders around, right? So it was a very simple idea when it was born. It was just a case of, well, hold on a minute. People are going to work. They've got their houses. Why don't they suddenly have their house pay them back for going to work to pay for the dumb house, And then childminders can use their home while they're not there or while they are there. And we'll have more childminders, which means more women can get back to work if they want to, which means more families can have better lifestyles. And the kids are brought up in a much better environment. Because where we live, I mean, there's 2 nurseries nearby, brand new, being built, backing onto railway tracks. Someone's lending for them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they think it's a good idea for, under 5s to buy railway tracks, but this is money, this is the UK government. So let's counteract that and say, well, hold on a minute. How about these little kids can play in people's gardens, or in a nice neighborhood, or have a childminder take them to the local park instead of locking them up in concrete jungle, like from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and charging the parents £2,000 for the privilege.
Yeah.
How about that parent makes £1,000 a month and the kid gets free childcare in its own house? So Bomp is going to be awesome. It's going to be huge. I'm saying that now. And it's going to do well and help a lot of people. A lot of lives are going to change. It's launching very soon. So
it's exciting. Is your husband entrepreneurial?
Yeah, so he's actually the one that's built the app out in the end.
Right.
Because the thing about surgeons is they will never, I don't know how many surgeons you know, but surgeons like to do things for themselves.
Right.
That's just how they are. And I think he was getting really peeved with the fact that I kept getting these. I have all the ideas in my head, but I couldn't work out the coding. It's such intricate coding. And the quotes were just ridiculous. You can count the zeros.
Yeah.
And so he was like, do you know what? I'll work out the code. And 14 years later, here we are. But do you know what? The world might not have needed it 14 years ago.
No,
everything has its moment, right?
Everything for
and
a reason.
What are the 3 key things the government is looking at right now? Childcare, loneliness, and getting women back to work. And Bomp does all 3. Right?
Yeah, sometimes timing is very important.
Exactly, yeah.
Hopefully that will deal with a massive debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for sure, because you've even got, I mean, it's interesting because some of the people that applied for Bomp so far are actually, we hadn't even thought of that part of society, but they're people whose kids have gone off to uni. They've got empty nest syndrome. They've got these beautiful houses that are empty, and they just want the joy of hearing little kids running around in the house, and they're getting paid £1,000 for it, and that £1,000 can contribute towards the kid that's gone off to uni.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice way of using all this resource and all these properties that aren't being maximised.
Absolutely.
Which is clever. How do you manage your life? Because you've obviously there's you, your husband, you've got your kids, the kids are growing up, you've got all these different business ventures. Is it quite a fluid life, or are you quite compartmentalised in when you do things?
Is where I'm coming from. What's your chilled zone?
I think it's pretty chilled out for us, to be honest. I mean, we don't really. I think I have a lot of staff that I trust, so I don't like. Today's my day off, so on a Tuesday, that's basically my rest day. So what I do on a Tuesday is, unless I've got any little meetings booked I have to do, I literally do nothing and just veg out. Right. And then Wednesday, the boys are coached in the evening. I only do 3 clinical days. I do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's not, for me, it's not too bad. I think I couldn't have done what I do now when the kids were really young, and when I was an associate. I think you have to find the balance. You definitely have to try and either be your own boss or be a very, very part-time associate. I don't think it's possible to do what I do and work 5 days.
No.
I just don't see where you're getting that moment from. Because I have to engage with my kids. I mean, my oldest daughter was in the West End for quite some time. She's stopped now, thank God. And now she's in college. But the point is, kids need you more as they get older.
Yeah.
Nobody told me this, but they need you more as they get older. I think my parents got lucky with me because I was just busy.
Yeah.
But I think, I find now that the need to have mom there, ideally, and dad if he can, is huge when they get to that kind of 14 to 17, 18 bracket.
Right. Yeah.
They kind of have that lost lamb moment. So I think that's how we get the balance. And we have a good time. We drink, I guess, and go out, have fun, dance. We're good. Yeah.
It sounds like you've got it together. It sounds
brilliant.
like you've got it together.
Yeah.
We're at the point where we've got to ask you our two very important questions.
Yeah.
So the first one is, you're a fly on the wall in a situation. Where are you and who's there?
Do you know what? I would say definitely, I don't know if you guys remember the night before Whitney Houston died. So I'm a massive Whitney Houston fan. Please tell me you know who Whitney Houston is.
Of course, sure.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
Phew. Okay, good, because I was going to have to sing for you.
No,
I was about to join in with "I Will Always Love You."
Yeah, unfortunately,
there we go.
that bath in that hotel has become quite famous, hasn't it?
So the night before she died, Brandy and I think Monica are doing a press conference. And Whitney walks in and she hands a piece of paper to Brandy. And I know at the time, Brandy's another random singer. And at the time, Whitney was dating Brandy's younger brother, Ray J.
Right.
So I want to know what was on that flipping note. Nobody in the world knows what was on that note. And Brandy will never share what's on that note. She's just written a whole book and never put in the book what was on that note. Yeah, so I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that situation. Wow. I would have just snatched the note out of her hand and read it. I'm so desperate.
Cool. That's a very, very
well,
niche.
It's never been investigated. I mean, she walks in, she literally barges in, she hands the note to her, she barges out, and she's dead within 12 hours. And nobody's asked what was on that note. I find it unbelievable. Yeah, so I'd love to know what was on that note.
Has the lady Brandy, been asked multiple times what was on the note and never said?
Yeah, I mean, poor Brandy, she just did like a whole press release for her new book, and literally every single comment was, what was on the note? What was on the note? You're going to talk about the note? She's like, no, I'm not going to talk about the note. So why write the bloody book then? We only want to know what's on the note.
I wonder if she kept the note hidden
I have
somewhere
no idea.
in a safe.
I have no idea.
To be released upon her death.
That's I would just love to know.
Well, we've never had that one before.
No, I doubt we'll have it again.
An unusual one.
And the follow-up is, if you could meet somebody, who would you like to sit down with a glass of something and have a conversation with?
Oh, I would probably have to say Nelson Mandela. For sure. Yeah, because we honeymooned in South Africa, and I couldn't believe it. You have to see it to believe it in terms of what he went through. I'd love to have a conversation with him. Yeah.
Maggie, it's been an absolute joy. I'm exhausted. Honestly,
rest.
I've only done about 2%
I'm
of the
going to have a cup of tea.
I'm absolutely exhausted.
That's why you've got to do the dance in the morning. When you've got energy, yeah?
But honestly.
Just take my clothes off now.
I think it's inspiring. I think the amount you're doing, I think the way that you're pushing in a number of directions with the football, with the new app, the holistic approach to dentistry, just your energy. I think it's something that's powerful and useful in dentistry, but just as a person, I think so many people can look at you and be like, wow, if I could be like 10% as energized as you are, then I'm going to get some stuff done. So no, thank you for your time today. It's
pleasure.
Really enjoyable.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to put my shorts back on now.
Lovely. Cheers, Maggie. Keep well.
All right then, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.